Picture this: you're sitting at your desk, pouring your heart into a project you've slaved over for months, when your boss, someone you trusted, admired even, walks in and, without a flicker of remorse, hands you a termination letter. Your world collapses. The job you loved, the life you built, it's gone in a heartbeat. But what if, instead of crumbling, you turned that betrayal into a weapon? What if you had the chance to strike back, not with fists, but with a single decision that could unravel an empire? My name is Alex Harper, and this is the story of how I lost everything, and then took down an $80 million deal to remind my ex-boss, Vanessa Crane, that karma doesn't play favorites. Stick with me, because this isn't just about revenge, it's about reclaiming your worth when the world tries to strip it away. I'll never forget the smell of that office, polished wood, stale coffee, and the faint tang of printer ink. It was my second home for 6 years at Pinnacle Ventures, a sleek venture capital firm in Chicago's financial district. I started as an intern, barely able to afford the bus fare, but by 2023, I was a senior analyst, the kind of person partners turned to when they needed a deal dissected or a pitch perfected. My colleagues called me the closer because I had a knack for spotting winners, startups that turned into unicorns, investments that paid off tenfold. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the best. And Vanessa Crane, the firm's star managing director, knew it. Vanessa was a force of nature, sharp, charismatic, and ruthless. She had a smile that could charm a room and a glare that could freeze your soul. At 38, she was the youngest partner in Pinnacle's history, and I idolized her. She took me under her wing early on, mentoring me through late-night strategy sessions and teaching me how to navigate the shark-infested waters of corporate politics. I thought we were a team. I thought she saw me as more than just a cog in her machine. That illusion shattered on a rainy Tuesday in October. I was finalizing a report for a biotech startup, Helix Innovations, a company I'd scouted myself. Their tech, AI-driven gene therapy, was revolutionary, and I'd spent months convincing Vanessa it was worth an $80 million investment. The deal was set to close in a week, and I was already dreaming about the bonus. Then she walked in, her heels clicking like a metronome, and dropped a single sheet of paper on my desk. "Alex, we're letting you go," she said, her voice flat, like she was ordering coffee. "HR has your severance details. Clear out by noon." I stared at her, my brain refusing to process the words. "What? Why?" "The Helix deal is handled," she cut me off. "We don't need you anymore. You've been adequate, but we're restructuring. It's business." Adequate. The word hit like a slap. 6 years of 80-hour weeks, of skipping family dinners and birthdays, of pouring my soul into this place, and I was adequate? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but Vanessa was already halfway out the door. The only thing she left behind was the faint scent of her perfume and a room full of my stunned colleagues, their eyes fixed on their screens, pretending they hadn't heard. The next hour was a blur. I packed my desk, photos of my sister's kids, a coffee mug my dad gave me before he passed, a stack of business cards I'd never use again. HR handed me a severance package that barely covered 2 months' rent. As I stepped into the elevator, I caught a glimpse of Vanessa in the conference room, laughing with the CEO like nothing had happened. That's when the anger started to burn, a slow, smoldering fire deep in my chest. That I spent the next week in a haze, replaying every moment, every late night I'd spent perfecting her presentations, every deal I'd closed to make her look good. I'd given Pinnacle everything, and Vanessa had tossed me out like yesterday's trash. But the worst part? I found out through a colleague's LinkedIn post that she'd taken full credit for the Helix deal. My deal. My blood, sweat, and tears. She'd erased me from the story. I could have let it go. I could have moved on, found another job, and buried the hurt. But something inside me snapped. Vanessa thought she'd won, that I was just another disposable telomere-resistant bug that she could squash. She was wrong. And I was going to make sure she paid for it. Jobless and humiliated, I didn't wallow for long. I had connections, and within 2 weeks, I landed a freelance consulting gig with a rival firm, Apex Capital. It wasn't Pinnacle's level of prestige, but it gave me a front-row seat to the industry, and access to information. Apex was smaller, hungrier, and they valued my ability to sniff out a good deal. They also had their eyes on Helix Innovations, the same biotech startup I'd championed at Pinnacle. The $80 million deal was still in play, and Vanessa was leading Pinnacle's charge to seal it. I knew the Helix deal inside and out. I'd written the original pitch, crunched the numbers, and vetted their tech. I also knew its Achilles heel, a regulatory hurdle buried in the fine print of their clinical trial data. It was a small issue, easily overlooked, but if the FDA caught it, the deal could stall for years. Vanessa, in her rush to claim victory, hadn't noticed. I had .at Apex. I pitched Helix to my new boss, framing it as a high-risk, high-reward opportunity. But I didn't stop there. I quietly shared my concerns about the regulatory issue with a contact at the FDA, a former colleague who owed me a favor. I didn't lie or fabricate evidence, I simply pointed them to the data and let the truth do the work. Within days, whispers of an FDA inquiry began to circulate, and Helix's valuation took a hit. Investors started to waver. Vanessa, oblivious, pushed forward with Pinnacle's $80 million offer, banking on her reputation to close the deal. But I wasn't done. Apex had a board seat on Helix's advisory panel, a detail Vanessa didn't know I was aware of. I convinced my boss to leverage that influence and push for a delay in the funding round, citing the FDA concerns. The board listened, and the deal was put on ice. That I watched it all unfold from the sidelines, my heart pounding with a mix of triumph and guilt. Vanessa's deal was unraveling, and Pinnacle's investors were furious. Rumors swirled that her position was on shaky ground. I didn't gloat, not publicly, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel good. She'd built her empire on my work, and I just pulled the rug out from under her, but revenge is a heavy thing. Late at night, I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering if I'd gone too far. Had I become the kind of person I despised, calculating, vindictive? My sister, Emma, was the one who pulled me out of that spiral. "You didn't destroy her, Alex," she said over coffee one morning. "You just held her accountable. There's a difference." Emma was right. Vanessa had underestimated me, and that was her mistake. I didn't need to shout my victory from the rooftops, the truth was enough. I rebuilt my career at Apex, earning a reputation as a sharp, ethical consultant. Helix eventually cleared the FDA hurdle, and Apex swooped in with a revised $60 million deal, a win for us, a loss for Pinnacle. In the end, I learned that revenge isn't about destruction, it's about standing up for yourself when the world tries to knock you down. I walked away from Pinnacle with nothing but my pride, but I built something better, a life where no one could erase me again. And Vanessa? She's still out there, chasing the next big deal, but she'll never forget the name Alex Harper.